And we are following breaking news. Deshaun Watson staying put in Houston for at least the rest of the season. The Texans could not work out a trade with the Dolphins before the deadline. Our NFL insider Josina Anderson telling us Dolphins owner Stephen Ross made the final call not to pursue Deshaun Watson. That is per ESPN. NFL Network adding that Ross only received permission to speak with Deshaun Watson last night. That was not enough time to get a deal worked out. Now, of course, Deshaun Watson facing several allegations of sexual misconduct, 22 civil lawsuits. He has not played at all this season while this legal situation is in flux. Now, Josina Anderson has said the Texans have a very specific price that they want for Deshaun Watson. They are not willing to budge on that. Their main suitor for him was the Dolphins. Over the past several months, he'd been linked to them several times. First back in September, and then most recently last week. But again, Deshaun Watson staying put in Houston for at least the rest of the season. Let's welcome in NFL insider Josina to talk about this. What can you tell us? I know you've been in constant contact with the Deshaun Watson camp. What's the latest now?
Well, I've just been talking to a myriad of sources around the situation as you were, just trying to keep in touch with the prospect teams where he might go, everyone surrounding, both sides, this from a legal perspective. But I would say as of last night, I was hearing a lot of frustration starting to boil over with just one source that this was obviously seemingly not going to get consummated. And then this past morning, twice I was hearing nothing is happening, nothing new. And the only thing I guess I was doing was just waiting till 4 o'clock and just should have really, officialized it even from an hour ago. But that is the news that Deshaun Watson will stay put with the Houston Texans. And I have been letting you guys know that they are very comfortable with him staying on the roster right now. The team is in a rebuilding mode. There's a definitive value that they feel is assessed to the quarterback that they have. He's a franchise quarterback. Franchise quarterbacks do not grow on trees. And at the end of the day, that is the position, that is the player that touches the ball the most. And regardless of whether it's now or in the future, there will be a team that will eventually make this deal. And I know that the Houston Texans feel that way. And ultimately, the Dolphins did not get up to the compensation. Owner Stephen Ross from the Miami Dolphins not getting the opportunity to talk to Deshaun Watson and what he felt like was in enough time as well, particularly when you consider the fact that the civil case was still ongoing with the deposition still not taken, the criminal case investigation still needing a grand jury date. And ultimately, Deshaun Watson not wanting to not have a non-disclosure agreements attached to the resolution of the way the civil settlements are right now, or the civil cases are right now. So this is why this is not getting done. And as they go to the future, perhaps there will be more clarity on these cases. I know that Deshaun Watson's side continues to express optimism for the information that they have, that eventually this will be adjudicated. Obviously, we have to wait for that result officially. And meanwhile, these teams are willing to go on, whether it be the Dolphins, whether it be the Panthers, or any other team that at some point had inquired about Deshaun Watson, that including the Philadelphia Eagles, that also including the Denver Broncos, willing to have it stay pat the way it is right now and move forward without Deshaun Watson.
You said initially that there was frustration that this deal was not going to get done. Frustration on what side specifically?
Well, that's a good question. If I illuminated that further, then definitely would be saying where that came from. But I would just, just say it the fact that this is not resolved. And obviously, this is a very sensitive matter when you're looking at this from a legal standpoint. It's a sensitive matter from the standpoint of a franchise quarterback not wanting to remain with the team, so much to the point where he was not even playing with them. And then ultimately, the Houston Texans having an asset that is Deshaun Watson, and not even being able to get the benefit of that player playing for them. And then the communication, I feel, just not happening to the point where it would need to be for this to get done. And so when you're having those conversations, part of what I was telling you guys too is because I can hear the tone, when people are talking, and it was not, sounding like, it was moving in that direction. Now, you're always going to leave that caveat open for the potential of something happening, as ultimately, business is business, but just not getting done to the point where Deshaun Watson is moving forward at this point.
He cannot be traded until about March of next year. because of these civil allegations and all of these allegations out there and the way this has unfolded with the Dolphins, do you think any team would be interested in him very seriously until Deshaun Watson and his team can say, look, this is exactly what's going to happen. This is when I'm available for you. I mean, are any teams going to take him very seriously until that happens?
Well, I think need always dictates the market. And so that's why I always saying, you always want to be able to gather as much information as you can. Injuries can impact the situation. Attrition impacts the situation. And I think the idea is that there will be more clarity in the future than there is now. Just can't say exactly what that is. Houston Police Department still has not weighed in from an official, standpoint. Perhaps there is, people deciding to do things differently when it comes to the civil cases with regards to the demands that are on the table right now. So I would say anything is always possible. If you're asking me to say what I think, I would say I definitely think that this gets done in the offseason. It's just a matter of when. And like I always said, too, at some point, this is going to be done and adjudicated. And Deshaun Watson is 26, and you don't want to take away from the seriousness of the things that are surrounding these cases from a football standpoint, and strictly from a football standpoint. At some point, this will be resolved, and then someone will have Deshaun as a quarterback from whatever that point is, moving all the way to the future. And you look at a quarterback like Tom Brady, who's playing well into his 40s, and when you look at how important the position of quarterback is to an NFL football team, that is what someone will have from a football standpoint.
We know the Dolphins, they didn't feel comfortable moving forward, and you've said that the Texans feel very comfortable waiting until the end of the season to try and resolve this. This all started with Deshaun Watson not wanting to play for the Texans anymore. Then these allegations came down. Give us the perspective of what's going on right now from Deshaun Watson's side.
Well, Deshaun Watson wanted a fresh start. He wanted to move on, and that has always, been the case. That's something that's been reiterated to me many times. But there were certain things that just could not be bent when it comes to his, cases right now in his mind. And I would even say in the minds of, certain people around him that just were not willing to do in order for this to move forward with regards to the cases. And I'm talking about the non-disclosure agreements and things like that. So that is something that we have been mentioning was a factor in providing clarity and getting a resolution at this time. And so I don't see that changing. You have, both sides of this case are very adamant and kind of sticking to that. And at some point, this has to budge, so that you get a resolution. The question is just when. And if it doesn't come by a civil settlement, we'll see how this plays out as far as, the criminal case investigation or the depositions that still have to be completed in the civil cases. But at this point, it remains unresolved. But you have that component, you have the football component, and teams evaluating what they have from an attrition standpoint, an injury standpoint. Anything can happen. Last week, no one would have thought that Jameis Winston would have went down. So all of those things are always coming into play. I mean, good heavens, you have Phillip Rivers saying now that he would be open to going to the Saints. Nobody was talking about that last week. So in the NFL, you never know what can happen, but this is the facts as it stands right now, because the NFL trade deadline was 4 p.m. Eastern on November 2nd. And so we definitely know it's just not happening today.
And that was the big one we're all waiting for to find out if it does happen. The NFL trade deadline just about an hour away from now. Josina, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us here on CBS Sports HQ. Again, Josina confirming Deshaun Watson staying put in Houston for at least the rest of this season. For all things inside the NFL, make sure to watch Inside the NFL. New episodes Tuesday, 9:30 Eastern, exclusively on Paramount+.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.